Hi everyone, welcome back. This week we're going to be talking about tips and tricks with the rider's position. If you've ever taken lessons with me, you know that I'm really picky about a rider's position, if the horse is bent, and if they're on the bit, which we've covered those topics before in other episodes. So today we're going to focus on rider's position. I was always taught that a horse and rider are direct reflections of each other. So what that means, if the rider's arms are tight, that means the horse's neck is tight. If your shoulders are locked, your horse's shoulders are locked. Your hands is a direct reflection of their mouth. Your back is a direct reflection of their back, and so on. One exercise that I love and I make all of my students do often to improve their upper body position is arm circles. What you want to do is you want to do big circles with your arms and your shoulders, making sure that you match your horse's shoulders. What this does is this stretches and opens up the rider's shoulders while reducing tension in that area, allowing the rider to square their shoulders and back without tensing up. One way that you can find your ideal seat position is you sit on a chair with your feet in front of you. If you tilt forward with your upper body with an arched back, you'll feel yourself sitting on your crotch. If you're sitting correctly, straight up and down, you should feel the points of your two seat bones and the bottom of your pelvis disappear. If you lean back with a rounded back, then you're sitting on your tailbone. Whatever type of riding you do, the more correctly you use your leg and seat and hand aids to communicate with your horse, the better they will perform. Many riders do not realize that they are unconsciously sending their horse confusing signals and messages. When you're doing these exercises, ask a ground person to identify your weaknesses and offer feedback. I often have people record me so that I can see what I look like doing different maneuvers or doing something new. That way I can catch whatever bad habits I'm doing. Your own body will need plenty of repetition to develop the muscle memory and strength required to perform these new skills. So make sure you take time, be patient, and incorporate different exercises into your daily routines. You'll notice that your muscle memory and your body will go into the correct position over time, and you won't have to focus on it so much. When people learn to ride, they have a natural tendency to want to control everything with their hands. The opposite is actually more effective. The less hand you use, the better the results. By learning to use your legs and seat to communicate with basic cues such as slow down, you save your hands for more sophisticated skills, such as bending and getting your horse on the bit. Remember that horses are creatures of habit. Whenever you change how you apply an aid, it will take many repetitions for you and your horse to learn the response properly. So please don't expect that once you change, your hands to this position that you're going to get an immediate result. You have to do it over and over again a couple times for the horse to understand what you want. So just keep repeating the correct aids until he begins to associate them with the appropriate response. Being a riding instructor, I see pretty much every single day different types of riding errors. And I just want to start by saying that this is all normal. None of us are perfect, and we've all probably made the same mistakes, and that's how we know how to fix them and why this is happening, etc. Don't get frustrated. It happens to the best of us. So here are some typical riding problems that you see in the arena and ways to fix them. One problem that you see too often is a rider riding with too stiff of arms and hands. If your shoulders and elbows and wrists are not soft and elastic, almost like jello, you cannot follow the horse's mouth smoothly enough to maintain an ideal steady contact. When your horse gestures with his head, which means moving it up and down, if your hands are frozen in place, then you will not be able to follow your horse. And then you're going to end up pulling on their mouth when they extend their head forward. And then when they come back, it's going to create loops. So how to fix this is at the walk, separate your hands just a little bit. Should be about a fist and a half apart. And then your hands should be about a fist and a half off of the horse's withers. So what you want to do is you want to focus on your horse's head and neck and the gestures. So as it's moving forward, you want to slightly allow your hands to move forward, and then as it's coming back, you want to slightly allow your hands to move back. Keep a steady, light contact, not heavy pressure. Concentrate on opening and closing your elbows, allowing your elbows to follow the horse's mouth and natural movement. Think of the reins as rubber bands, trying not to let them droop or snap in the horse's mouth while maintaining a straight leg on both sides of the horse to prevent him from slowing down or stopping. If you are stiff through your hands and arms, hold your hands about 1.5 feet apart, trying not to let either rein touch your horse's neck. Do circles by following your horse's head movement smoothly with your hands and moving your shoulders to match their shoulders so that your reins never loop and your hands never bump the horse's mouth accidentally. As you walk around the ring, make turns and circles, never allowing either rein to touch your horse's neck. Then do the same thing at the trot and the canter. Once your horse is gesturing, which is basically like moving or pushing into the reins with your hands, stay relaxed and elastic with your shoulders and elbows, and ask your ground person to watch and see that your reins are following with your horse and not sagging or snapping the horse in the mouth. When you go back to riding with your hands in the correct positions, which is about 4 to 5 inches apart, remind yourself to continuing following your horse with your motions of your arms. Another major problem that we see often is clutchy or too strong of hands. Riders often pull too hard on their horse's mouth because of nerves, for example, fear from being run away with, lack of balance, using the reins for balance instead of their legs in their seat, or an uneducated leg. Most horses react by this by leaning their weight onto the bit, which you've got about 1,200 pounds of horse in your hands. You will not win that pulling match. So in order to fix this, you have to find a way to find a suppling shoulder and a suppling hand. Kind of think about getting in and getting out and never putting strong pressure through your fingers or through your arms. So what you do is you kind of follow with their natural movement, talk through your fingertips, get in, supple, get right back out. You never want to try to hold or hang on the horse's mouth. It's never going to work out to your benefit or theirs. Another huge problem we see in the ring is too long of reins. One thing I tell my riders all the time is if you're riding your horse and you pull back and your hands are already passing the saddle pad, your hands are too long. So when you're riding, you want to make sure that you're riding in this little box that you can give and take, but your hands are not going to cross the saddle pad and end up into your stomach area. So when you're riding with your reins too long, this prevents you from maintaining a consistent contact with your horse and creates gaps in your communication. One way to fix this is you can wrap a piece of tape around each side of the reins where your hands should be, and this can help kind of give you a good guide to if your reins are sneaking out too long or too short. Another thing is they have these cute little color reins that you can use, especially for kids, that you can just tell them, okay, put your hands on the blue, put your hands on the pink, whatever. Another problem that you get is your rider's hands are too wide. When viewed from above, your forearm and your reins should create a straight line from your elbow through your wrist to the horse's mouth. If you carry your hands further than 4 to 5 inches apart, you'll break that straight line and reduce the effectiveness of a direct rein aid. A cool exercise you can practice is grab a snaffle bit or like a egg butt D-ring, any type of snaffle bit, the bit cannot have shanks. So what you do is you hold that along with the reins, and yes, don't worry, you can hold the reins and the bit all at the same time. So what you do is between your fingers, with all of the fingers or just your pointer and middle finger, wrap them around the rings of the bit. Then what you're going to do is you're going to ride. As you ride, it's going to help you make sure that your hands do not separate and go too far apart. Okay, so up next is improving your legs. So developing a stable, educated leg is key to a rider's progress. By fine-tuning the placement and timing of your leg aids and teaching your horse to respond promptly off of them, you can reduce the need to apply the aid as hard and as often as you may think. You can achieve a more accurate, polished performance by having a smooth leg that's long, straight down, weight down into your heels, but not forcing down into your heels. One problem we often see in the arena is the leg in front of or behind your body. Ideally, your leg should be positioned directly underneath your body. If it swings backwards or upwards, your body will fall forward or fall back. If you do that enough, you'll eventually fall off your horse. And because your leg aid is applied behind the girth for other purposes as a cue to pick up the canter or to move the horse's hindquarters for like a haunches in or something like that, you will give them conflicting signals. If your legs swing forward, your body will fall backward. Your legs will also come off your horse's sides, which may make some horses a little nervous or reactive. Horses are much happier if they feel a consistent light leg with contact and you do not anticipate surprise aids. So I do hear this a lot where people think that they shouldn't keep their aids on all of the time. And the thing is they want the guidance, they need the guidance. Instead of you kind of jumping in and out of nowhere, surprising them at the last minute, they would rather you consistently talk to them around the arena softly so that you help keep them together instead of abruptly putting a cue here and there. With your upper body behind the motion, you also may unconsciously tell your horse to slow down. Even on that note, a nervous horse, it's always important to convey the message to move forward. Really nervous horses, the worst thing that you can do is try to stop them. You need to kind of keep them forward, and that'll help kind of calm their mind down, I guess. Your backward tipping underneath your body may be the opposite effect. If your seat is pushing into the saddle too much, this creates a driving seat in which will tell your horse to go more forward. So again, if you lean forward, your body's going to come forward. It's going to throw you off a position. If you sit back, you'll have a nice driving seat that will convey to your horse to go here, go there, instead of up and down and choppy and everywhere. To influence your horse correctly, you cannot allow your upper body to tip behind the motion. The following 3 fixes will help you stabilize your legs in correct position while simultaneously improving your upper body control. Number 1, again, is to check your stirrup length. In general, when your feet are out of the stirrups and your legs hang down, your horse's sides relaxed, the bars of the stirrups should hit your ankle. This ideal length may vary somewhat from person to person. If your leg tends to slip in front of you, your stirrups may be too long. If your legs slip back, they may be too short. If you're a junior rider, remember that your stirrup length will change as you grow, so you should definitely check them frequently. Another common problem we see in the arena is your horse is not responsive to your legs. This can result in your horse being lazy or just general lack of respect for the rider, which in turn can result in the riders nagging with their legs or being too reliant on spurs. So what I tell people to do in this situation is to take off the spurs but use a whip. And then what I tell everybody to do is suggest, ask, tell, promise. So you go squeeze, squeeze, bump, bump, kick, kick, tap, tap until they go forward. When you ask your horse to go forward, gently squeeze them or kick your legs a few times. Okay, so last but not least, let's talk about improving your seat. Riding with an effective seat using your body weight and position in the saddle to communicate with your horse is not as mysterious as you think. It can be simple if you just lighten your seat and you relax instead of some people try to shift their weight from one side or the other, or they tense up or they lock up. Really, you just want to make sure that you have a balanced seat over both of your seat bones, your lower back is relaxed, and you're able to supple and allow your lower back to move and supple and go with the horse instead of locking, arching, and fighting up against them. One common problem we see is when a rider is using too much rein and not enough seat to slow their horse down, making downward transitions. If you cannot make a transition from the trot to the walk without relying heavily on your reins, you need to work on your seat. Start in the posting trot, sit up a little taller, and try to slow your posting down slightly. With each stride, sit a split second longer in the saddle. Meanwhile, keep your legs in contact with your horse's sides. After several strides, if he doesn't slow down, add enough pressure on the reins to bring him back down to the walk. You can add a verbal cue too, such as walk or whoa. Repeat this frequently, always using the seat aid before the rein until he starts to respond just from your seat. A great way to improve your seat is to practice the trot and walk transitions, trying to use as little rein as possible. Start in a regular posting trot. Next, sit up a little taller, slow your posting down, think walk. As you can kind of feel your horse slowing down, you keep your legs in contact. If he's responding by slowing down to the walk with a very little added rein pressure, then that's perfect. That's what you're looking for. One problem that you see riders often have with their seats is that they have too much of a driving seat. The driving seat is sitting deep in the saddle and then leaning back slightly behind the motion. It's a good tool to use, for example, if your horse is spooky or approaching a jump and he might refuse, or if you feel like they're going to buck or refuse to go forward. But you'll be penalized if your driving seat in the hunter ring because it indicates a lack of trust in your horse. So that's a good side note to know. In the hunter ring, you will get penalized for too much of a driving seat. Okay, everyone. Well, that wraps up this week's session. I really hope you enjoyed it and learned something from the video. We will be showing you at some point all of this stuff with riders in saddle, showing you the different positions and, what happens when you put your arms like this, what happens when you put your legs like this, and how to fix it. So until then, I hope you enjoyed it and hope to see you again next week. Thank you.